Three bodies in the price of one. Offer valid while stocks last. People have learned by now to give birth to people. End of story. The human form on our planet has been stabilized. Maybe in other planets as well. But on Earth, it is a certainty. I know you're going to say, "Big deal, man. It's not exactly a breakthrough." Really, isn't it? Imagine if evolution hadn't stabilized yet, and people were born with 4 legs or arms or 5 eyes or with different organs. So the form is stabilized. I don't know how many centuries it took the procedure to complete, but it is done. Minor details are left, but the essence of the human form has now an unchangeable cast. And that's it so far. Nothing more, nothing less. I say so far because although the human's first shape, his body, has taken its form, unfortunately, we can't say the same for the human's second shape, his emotional world. To be more accurate, that damn second form is still at its early stages of evolution. Of course, there have been many significant steps. Don't forget that just a few centuries ago, humanity was far more barbaric. And when I say far more, I mean so much more. However, this second form has not yet reached its correct caste. Now, regarding the third form of life, the mental, well, don't even get me started. It is a model under test. It's just part of the marketing of the product to encourage us to buy the damn thing. But if the caste, or better yet, the information of the material body is somehow stored in the DNA of humanity, where is the information of the emotional body stored? My question is about the root of the emotional bodies and not their carrier in the human being. One thing I am sure of, the carrier is not in the brain or the heart, and it is not the result of chemical reactions. I find this interpretation very naive. It is like astrology, where they did not know how to fully interpret it, so they invented a pseudoscience to load everything in it. The human is something different, is not the bodies. It is hidden somewhere, and through the process of birth, it borrows the 3 bodies to fulfill its plan. It fights them, changes them, adapts them, pays special attention to that, but return them all at the end for reuse. Not as they are. The cleaners take them, wash them, clean them up, tear them down to their original parts, and prepare them for reuse. But they also do something else. They take them back to their central storehouse. Coals and other similar components return as primitive information to Earth. They are transformed into substances, and like substances, they are passed into human bodies for further development. It is sensible to expect that the same procedure is being used for the information of the emotional body. The checklist is the same as before. We just have an analysis of other materials and delivery in a different warehouse. And now, the colpo grosso, in common words, the big ruse. What does death do to the physical body? Something similar should be done to the emotional body as well. But beware, the emotional body is not the soul, or at least for those that it is. The weak words interpretation should be clarified. Parenthesis. My dear metaphysic friends must come to an agreement on the terminology of the word. In our days, concepts such as spirit, soul, self, higher self, and many others are used collectively and effortlessly and refer to the same thing. Well, what exactly? I am personally stuck with the concept since I participated in a metaphysical group, the word supreme ego. It is the ego of a higher level, a level reminiscent of the sun and its rays. The rays can cast light onto a grain of dust, and so we can perceive their existence. The truth, however, is that the surface of the sun is just a mass of flaming materials. End of parenthesis. So, where are all of this information being stored? In a vast storehouse called the astral level, another misconception, since it has nothing to do with the stars, the place from where we most probably borrow our emotional body when we start the process of incarnation. The process I just mentioned makes man's effort for improvement decisive for the future of mankind. Regardless of whether he gains the ability to pursue the game of existence as consciousness somewhere else, the emotional information he will give back will help the stabilization of the emotional form. There may be minor improvements, but a bit from one, a bit from another, something will happen at the end, and it will take place, because the process is already tested in the previous body. So the course of creation in this phase is the stabilization of this second form. And of course, I'm not referring to the individual success of this effort, but to a de facto stability. That's when the creatures that will be born will have a harmonious physical body and an equally harmonious body of emotions. The journey does not end there, but this is something to be discussed in another post. For now, it is worthwhile to examine the emotions tank. As we can use materials from our natural environment, even if we haven't yet become physical beings, we can do the same with the primary emotions. And what do? We dive into nasty feelings, we get stained, and we don't realize that we are polluting our emotional form. As children, we are clean and uncontaminated, and slowly, little by little, we load our emotional body with every shit we find. If you could see the emotional body, you would look at bodies with 3 hands or 4 feet, with 2 heads, and God knows what else. And what's the worst of it all? That all these features are constantly changing. Can you imagine it? With no stability, the forms are in a phase of constant change, and therefore no improvement is to be expected soon. Put aside for now the effects of this procedure. The mediums dive into this space and fill our minds with every kind of nonsense they discover there. And because, as space it is accessible, it needs some to also have permanent residence. So they place there all the dead, all the monsters, all the creatures that they have nowhere to put and fuck it up, excuse me, call it hell. There is a chance that some unsolved emotional remnants of the dead exist there, but not their personalities, not the spark that enlightens their material and emotional bodies. And in this mess, the universal forces of transformation, some call them destruction forces, lie in wait, and with the mirror of our false idols, present our emotional bodies as angel-shaped figures, and we swallow the whole bait and rest in the inactivity of daily procrastination, which makes us such an easy starting material. Everything will be better tomorrow. P.S. Have you counted how many of these tomorrows have passed for each one of us? And this is the way.